Talking. Can you hear me? Oh yeah, I'm echoing.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. I am your host, True Crime Stories, and today we're gonna finish up this Jack the Ripper storyline that we've started for you guys last weekend. Um, like I have scrolling down towards the bottom, we're doing the same thing again. If you want to get me drunk, it's $5 a shot. No pressure, just because I think it's funny. Um, And why don't we go ahead and get things started since, I mean, it's the fun part. Okay, Lolly, go ahead and talk and see if it works. I can hear you, but I don't know if they can. Can you hear her? No? Fucking fuck. Well, I asked the question too. God. OBS decided it wanted to, Ah, talk now. That working? Is there any echoing or anything? Chat? We love you. It's coming up on my end, so I would hope they can hear you now. Neither am I. Yeah. Back it up and see if it works. God damn. Why do you have to be a cunt? I don't understand why you do this. OBS. I hate OBS so fucking much. Okay. Are you? Great. That'd be a good idea.
Whatever
Oh,
setting you
oh.
had it at in the beginning. Oh,
Can you hear it
I
now?
hear me.
Yay. Is there an echo?
I don't know, but no, I don't think so. I can't tell because it's echoing for me because I'm listening to it on Discord, but
Ah.
I'm there. Hi, chat. I was telling you
Yay.
I loved you. Like there were so many things going on. You just missed so much. You guys missed so
So
much.
much.
How's it
It's
going? Are you ready
working.
for part
Fuck
the
yeah.
conclusion?
Yeah,
Jack
buddy.
the
Let's
Ripper?
go.
We went
So,
hard last time.
why don't we start with this? I don't know if you're drinking, but I know I am. I got me
I'm not in.
a French martini. I'm feeling bougie
Excellent.
today.
Oh, I'm kind of jealous. No, I don't have any. I don't have anything in the like wine or anything in the house because I drank it all last time. I didn't go buy more.
Yeah, hey, it
So
happens. At least you had a good time. But
yeah, there's some liquor, but I just
you're like,
seems a little
I don't
early.
feel like it. But
Seems a little early.
French martini is Chambord, which is a French
Oh
raspberry liqueur,
yes.
pineapple juice, and stolichnia vodka.
Oh, that sounds really good.
Mmm, I love it. It's a little pricey because
Yeah,
it's a Chambord, but
yeah. Chambord is slightly pricey sometimes.
yeah.
Isn't there a Chambord? Isn't that a beer too, or am I wrong? Like a
I don't
raspberry beer?
think so.
I think there is one. I could be 100% wrong about that.
I don't know. I'll have to look it up later. But
Yeah.
we to catch y'all up, last time we were going on 2 hours when we got to the point where we were going to talk about suspects of who Jack the Ripper is.
Yes.
And I went and looked at the list of people and went, no, we'll be here all day. Let's
Hey, there's
do
a
a part
lot.
2. So this is where we do part 2. And it looks like all this stuff is like split into 3 different categories of suspects and who brought them up, which is contemporaneous police opinion, meaning these are what the police believed were Jack the Ripper. Contemporaneous press and public opinion, which is obviously media, newspapers, and chitty chat from the town. And then there's proposed by later authors, which means people who are interested in this story, like we are, decided they wanted to give some possibilities. And what we're gonna do towards the end of this list is we are going to go ahead and put up a poll at the end of it and see what you guys think. Because I think that would be fun.
That is fun.
So fun.
The most fun.
The most fun.
No, I like it.
Oh yeah, I do too.
I don't know. I'm always torn. Like it's hard. It's hard to pick one because
Yeah.
there's like none of them are. I don't think any of them are all that good.
Yeah.
Like there's none of them that are like that's the right one
Right.
for me. They just I don't know. It could be anyone.
It could be anyone, which is the interesting part.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the fun part for sure. So what we're gonna do is start with the police opinion, which I think is the smartest way to go.
I agree. These are probably the most likely.
Yeah,
if
they
I
make
had
the
to
most
choose,
sense.
these are the ones that I would go with.
Yeah, they make the most sense.
Yeah. Contemporaneous police opinion, I think, is pretty important because they, like you can propose stuff after the fact or like the public can pick apart stuff, but you just, we're not privy to the facts that they were privy to and their understanding of the area and their understanding of like the people at the time. I just think the police are probably the closest.
Everything else is just tinfoilery.
Yeah.
So the first person we are going to talk about is Montague John Druitt. Now, he was born in Dorset. He's a Dorset-born barrister, meaning he was a lawyer of sorts, and worked as an assistant schoolmaster in Blackheath, London, until he was dismissed and committed suicide by drowning in 1888. Oh, that's heavy. It's suggested that he may have been dismissed because of liking other men.
Yes.
Degenerate. I'm just kidding. I don't give a fuck.
No, not here. Not in this.
No.
Not in this stream. Not in this stream.
Not in this stream. No. But it's known that his mother and grandmother had mental health problems, and it's possible that he was the more likely possibility is that he was dismissed because of a hereditary psychiatric illness that had just started coming to the surface. And because he died after the last canonical murder, he's kind of named a suspect in February of 1894, but this one
Dan,
doesn't.
why?
This one isn't very. Yeah. This one isn't very.
I mean, why is he a suspect?
Yeah.
He had a mental health problem and he died after the last murder. Like, I don't understand.
I don't either.
Why
That's what it doesn't make any sense. Apparently, apparently the reason why is because Chief Constable Sir Melville McNaughton put him as a suspect in a memorandum on the 23rd of February in 1894. So apparently McNaughton thought he was a suspect, but it turned out that he had incorrectly described a Druitt, as he was 31 when he died, as a 41-year-old doctor, which was not right.
That's okay. Yeah.
McNaughton, you stupid.
Yeah, I think we can dismiss this one.
Yeah.
This one doesn't seem very likely.
Yeah.
I mean, did he like even live? Like, he was in.
Because
London,
here's what
but
they
like.
Go ahead.
I don't know. He lived in London, but like I don't think that. I mean, a lot of people lived in London, and a lot of people died after the last murder.
That's true.
I just don't. I don't know. No, I don't see. Unless there's like, what was the actual reason that they suspected him?
Oh, he was named in the memorandum by McNaughton by mistake.
Yeah, but why?
Because people be stupid, yo.
Cricket, Jack the Ripper suspect. All right.
He was one of 7 that were thought of by the police. When they investigated him, on September 1st, the day after the canonical murder, he was in Dorset playing cricket. And right now, most experts believe that Jack the Ripper was a local in Whitechapel, and whereas Druitt lived up in the other side of Thames in Kent.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree. I think he was a local.
Yeah.
I don't think this guy was.
No. He ended up getting dismissed by Inspector Frederick Aberline because there was really no serious basis or evidence that led anyone to believe or constitute the belief of him being the possible. Yeah.
Imagine living in this time where you could be a suspect with like absolutely no evidence whatsoever except dying in a way that may have been similar to somebody else that they possibly thought was a suspect. Oh my god. I can't imagine. I
Yeah.
could not imagine. Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
The
That is some
next
pretty
suspect
light evidence.
is, I think it's pronounced Siren Klosowski or Klosowski. Yeah.
Sowski.
I don't know
Darn.
how to spell. I don't know how to say his
Polish.
first name. I'm not even gonna try it. It's but he's a Polish-born immigrant to the United Kingdom.
I mean, you couldn't tell by the last name, but
You're right. And he apparently immigrated just before the beginning of the Whitechapel murders. Um, he ended up changing his name to George Chapman in 1894, and apparently actually is a killer because he poisoned 3 of his wives and became known as the Burrow Poisoner.
Ripper isn't a poisoner though.
No, he was considered a suspect because while the murders were happening, he did live in Whitechapel
Okay.
and worked as a barber. He was initially the favored suspect by Inspector Aberline, and it was put out there that he was a possible suspect by the Pall Mall Gazette. So the media had a little bit of a hand in that.
Yeah.
And the reason why we kind of discount him, obviously, is because of what you said. The modus operandi of Klosowski and Jack the Ripper does not match at all.
No. I don't think somebody who likes killing the way that Jack the Ripper did, particularly that last one, as you guys will recall, which is pretty gruesome. I don't think that person it would be happy or satisfied. I don't know, whatever. Satisfied by poisoning someone.
No.
That's pretty, like, it's a pretty distant way of killing someone, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it's very impersonal.
Yes, that's what it's for.
Because if you can tell that there's a derived pleasure from it when with what was found regarding Jack.
Yeah.
And
agreed.
Yeah, that's more immediate and personal. And now we're gonna get to one of the ones that we really like.
Yes, this is my favorite, I think.
Aaron Kosminski. He is a Polish Jew that was admitted to the Colney Hatch Lunatic Asylum in 1891. And apparently was named a suspect by Sir Monotton in the same 1894 memorandum that put Druitt's name in the public eye. And there's also some handwritten comments in the margin of his copy of the Assistant Commissioner Sir Robert Anderson's memoirs, which stated that a Polish Jew had been identified as the Ripper, but no prosecution was possible because the witness was also Jewish and refused to testify against a fellow Jew.
I mean, 'tis possible, I suppose.
'Tis very possible. Monotton obviously said that no one was identified as the Ripper. And that completely contradicts that thought or recollection by Anderson. In 1987, a man named Martin Fido searched the asylum records for any inmates called Kosminski and found our lovely gentleman here who also had lived in Whitechapel.
Yes.
However, he's typically seen as harmless by the asylum and its staff.
Yeah, so this is the only thing that gives me pause on him is that he was like he was clearly he clearly had a mental um issue of some sort. It's
Oh yeah.
unclear what it was. And I the Ripper stuff seems pretty to me like pretty well planned out, like,
Mm-hmm.
he had a good idea of what he was doing, and he didn't hesitate. He, followed people and
Yeah.
did his stuff, but I just I don't know. It's it's hard to say because like and it seems like what he was doing and in some other forums and like stuff like that there's more information about like exactly what
Yeah.
kind of mental illness he had, and it seems that like he was more like the kind like he seemed more like eating stuff out of the garbage and like like just
Yeah.
not really prone to murder, but I mean you never know if the guy's
Yeah.
having like crazy hallucinations and like seeing things funny, like that also seems to me like it could manifest in some sort of like mindless, almost like crazy rage if he thinks, you know, I don't know, if he has some reason for it in his own mind. I,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's really hard. I mean, and it also, like they said, the um the only Kosminski that they could find in the asylum records was him. So it actually might be a different Kosminski who just
Could
isn't
be.
in surviving records.
That's true.
Because this was the 1800s and, there were fires and shit got destroyed. It could
Be
you know,
advised, this is
be another
prior
guy.
to World War One and Two.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, right. And then so much stuff was, destroyed in World War II. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There was also the
Yeah.
thing with the shawl, which I do not. Oh, probably. I think we're getting to that, right? But I don't buy
Probably.
that. Yeah, I don't buy that.
Um, but apparently he had auditory hallucinations, not necessarily visual.
Mm.
He had a paranoid fear of being fed by other people. He
That's
re-
why. That's right. That's why you would eat out of the trash.
he refused to wash or bathe, and he tended to like hurting himself. Uh-huh. And another thing that kind of throws this off is that there are several sources, credible sources, such as FBI profiler John Douglas, that say um, someone like Kosminski would probably have started like boasting about the murders if he'd done it. And there's no record of him doing
Oh,
so.
I don't know. I don't know if that. I mean, I guess he knows more than I do, but it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't seem to me that you would necessarily be someone to boast about it. He would more be, kind of like it could have been about a paranoia that caused him to do it,
Could be.
and maybe don't want to talk about it because paranoia. That's. I mean, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. And here comes the shawl. In 2014, DNA analysis slightly linked Kosminski with a shawl that belonged to Catherine Eddowes. But a lot of experts, including Sir Alec Jeffreys, the inventor of the genetic fingerprint, said these claims were unreliable.
Yeah, I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
I don't buy it
I don't
either.
buy it. I
And in
think
20... Go for it.
the
Sorry.
reason was there was no kind of like chain of custody for the shawl. Like we don't know, like we have anecdotes about where it came from, and like
Yeah.
I guess somebody said their ancestor was a police officer in Whitechapel, and he took it and kept it, and it became kind of like a family relic, and then I
Yeah.
think I don't know if they sold it or what happened, but for whatever reason, it ends up like it's in private custody for however long and ends up, just recently, like you said, 2014, um, in, the DNA analysis. I don't know. Don't know.
Yeah, and you gotta think of it this way. DNA evidence, when exposed to the elements, degrades pretty quickly.
And it's been exposed to all kinds of,
That's
like, who knows what sort of condition it was kept in since the 1800s, you know?
that's over 150 years difference. If there was any DNA evidence on there, that shit ain't gonna show up now. It's not gonna be viable.
Yeah, I think if you look into the actual, so the story about the actual DNA was that they were only able to get DNA, which is the maternal line, I think. But that same mDNA can be traced to like 200,000 people living in London at the time. Like it was pretty common amongst Polish Jews. So, it could be whatever DNA. And there's also, like I said, there's the problem with the chain of custody. So where the hell did the shawl come from? Like,
exactly.
why?
And why is it in the hands of a citizen?
Yeah, it's
It seems more to me like some sort of attention-seeking behavior.
Sure. Somebody's family was like, yeah.
Yeah, this was thrown out again in 2019 when the Journal of Forensic Scientists published a study that said the DNA from Kosminski and Catherine Eddowes was found in the shawl, but other scientists have said that's bullshit. So
yeah, I don't know if I just don't think it's that reliable.
I don't think so. No, if we wouldn't take evidence that's months, days old,
yeah,
in a court of law now, why would we take 100+ year old DNA?
Well, because no one's alive that is related to it. I mean, I think in a court it's different because it's all, you're dealing with live people who are victims or suspects, and it matters at this point. This has been however many years. It's no one's alive who was alive at the time. The suspects are obviously all deceased. The victims, clearly. I mean, the victims' children, even. It's
Everybody did. Everybody did.
Yeah, it's just so far removed. This might be why it's one of my like favorite ones to discuss, because it's so far removed from now that it's it's interesting to talk about without feel like, I mean, obviously you still feel horrible for the victims and everything, but it's so far removed that it's kind of all theoretical.
Absolutely, yeah.
At least that's how my mind sees it.
Yeah, this to me just doesn't it doesn't settle right with me, and with how far removed it is from the time of when that shawl could possibly have been found or taken by a so-called police officer. It doesn't, there's nothing that we can really confirm with that. It all seems like it's just a cry for, they wanted attention from the media, and this is how they did it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I still think he's a good suspect, but I don't know.
Yeah.
The shawl.
Yeah, but there's just isn't nothing seriously, substantially grounded in it. It shows, this guy totally fucking did it.
I mean, as we know, like, this would not pass muster in a modern court. We have the not the chain of custody issue, not to mention the fact that the DNA that they use specifically can't be traced to one unique individual. There's hundreds of thousands of people that would have the same profile. So, yep. I think there's a reasonable doubt.
Yes, there's definitely reasonable doubt.
Mine is the chain of custody. I think that's a good one for me.
Our next suspect is Michael Ostrog. This one is definitely not. This has no grounds, and there's a good reason for it. But this guy was a Russian-born con man and thief with numerous aliases and assumed titles at the time. He also claims that he was once a surgeon in the Russian Navy. and was also mentioned as a suspect by Monotton. However, there's no evidence that he's committed anything other than fraud and theft, and an author, Philip...
crimes.
Yeah. An author, Philip Sugden, showed that there were prison records where he was in jail for petty offenses in France during the Ripper murders. So, this guy definitely is not the Ripper. After Ostrog, we have John Pizer, another Polish Jew, who was a bootmaker in Whitechapel.
Jews get a bad rap.
I know.
I'm saying, they just get a bad rap.
I know.
Victorian England.
But he was a bootmaker in Whitechapel, which kind of ties him into the Leather Apron killer.
Okay.
So that it kind of is like a chain of thought where, okay, if Jack the Ripper is possibly a Leather Apron, and this guy works with leather and makes boots, he's very aware of how to do that shit.
Yeah. But does he know how to rip out a uterus?
I don't know, but
that's the question.
He apparently has a conviction for stabbing offense.
Okay.
And it's believed by Police Sergeant William Thick that he had a string of minor assaults on prostitutes, which also makes things a little bit interesting.
Yeah.
And this guy was apparently arrested after Chapman was murdered in September 1888. And even after investigating him, the inspector said that there's no evidence whatsoever against him. He was cleared of suspicion, and apparently he had 2 alibis for the murders.
2?
Yeah, he had an alibi. There's 2 murders that he was suspected for, Nichols and Chapman.
Okay.
Which happened on the same night, if I remember correctly. No, they're different nights.
No, those are
different
the 2
nights.
that were the same night were Stride and Eddowes.
Yeah, no brain power. But yeah, he apparently had an alibi for when Nichols was murdered and when Chapman was murdered. So, 2 alibis for the 2 murders.
Well,
he was apparently staying with relatives for one of them, and was talking with a police officer watching a spectacular fire on the London docks on the other one.
That's a hell of an alibi.
Yeah.
I was talking to a cop.
Yeah, I was talking to a cop. He can corroborate.
I'd like that corroborated. I'd like to see.
Yeah, I'll take that one. Yeah. I'll borrow that later. And apparently Thick and Pizer knew each other. So it's kind of implied that he implies that Thick arrested him for other reasons. And just used the Ripper case as an excuse. But thankfully he got compensation from one of the newspapers who said he was the murderer. And Thick ended up later being...
Even in Victorian times, we are
so happy.
Litigious.
Yes.
Litigious.
And what's even better, karma-wise, is that Thick was eventually accused of being the Ripper.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah, that one's kind of funny. That's kind of funny, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is funny.
The 6th of the 7 suspects by the police is James Thomas Sadler. He's a friend of Francis Cole's, which is the last victim of the Whitechapel murders on police file.
Who we don't know if was...
We don't know if that's actually a Ripper, yeah. Sadler was arrested because of his association with her, but He was obviously ended up being released because he was at sea at the time of the first 4 canonical murders.
Okay.
So yeah.
I mean, that seems like a pretty good alibi.
But Monoton had to tune in on this one again. And he said, quote, Sadler was a man of ungovernable temper and entirely addicted to drink and the company of the lowest prostitutes. So basically saying he's a fucking degenerate.
The lowest prostitutes. Well, my goodness.
Degeneracy.
I don't
at
know
its
what the highest
finest.
prostitutes are.
Yep. Yeah,
Can't
obviously
imagine
not.
they
Nah.
were
He's not. There's no way.
high and mighty.
Yeah. And our final suspect, per the police, is Francis Tumblety.
Oh, this is another one that I kind of like.
Yeah. He apparently earned a small fortune posing as an Indian herb doctor in the United States and Canada, but was pretty much perceived as a misogynist and a fucking quack. Like it was easily known that he was a fake and a fraud. He was also connected to the death of one of his patients, but escaped prosecution. He was later arrested in 1865 for being complicit in the assassination of Abraham Lincoln.
What?
And there was no connection found, so he was released for that.
What?
What? Some of these things are so fucking funny.
It's amazing.
Yeah, the things that you didn't know when you actually look deep into this shit.
Yeah, I don't actually remember the Lincoln thing. That's pretty nuts.
Interesting.
Holy shit. Yeah, I know he was American, and they were pretty happy to blame Americans on the Ripper.
Yeah.
You know, because no true Englishman could have done such a thing. Right?
No, only the dirty Americans could do it.
Yeah. That's right. Damn Americans.
But apparently he was in England in 1888 and arrested on the 7th of November of that year because he was playing with another man booty. Apparently.
Oh, that's a problem. So like,
yeah, degenerate.
So many of them are just like blaming people who didn't fit in with like the norms of the time, right? So you have them, accusing people who are gay, or who are Jewish, and you can see some of those biases kind of coming through there.
Oh yeah, that's pretty obvious. What happened.
So it's hard to say if some of those were accurate or not, but it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Apparently he was reported by some of his friends that he showed off a collection of mattresses or wombs from quote unquote every class of woman at around the time.
Yeah.
Huh?
It's a fucking lunatic.
The fuck? And apparently when he was awaiting trial, he went to France and then went to the United States after that. He was obviously he was arrested because he was already evading criminal charges in the U.S. And it's reported that Scotland Yard tried to extradite him.
Rude.
But that wasn't confirmed by the British press or the London police.
Oh, sure.
And the New York City police said, quote, there is no proof of his complicity in the Whitechapel murders, and the crime for which he is under bond in London is not extraditable. So basically, fuck you, bitch. It's basically what they're saying.
All right.
And that's pretty much all that we have regarding those 7 people. And now we go to the next set, which is the contemporaneous press and public opinion. We have 6 of those. The first being William Henry Bury. Apparently he'd recently moved to Dundee from the East End of London, and his wife, and he strangled his wife, Ellen Elliot, who was a former prostitute, in February of 1889. He inflicted extensive wounds to her abdomen, and when she was dead, he packed her body into a trunk and went to the police and said that his wife killed herself. She did a backflip off the top bunk.
Just like Jeffrey.
Yep. He was arrested, found guilty of the murder, and was hung in Dundee. But he was linked to the Ripper crimes through the investigation and denied any connection, but he made a full confession of killing his wife. But the reason why he was perceived as being a suspect is because the executioner, James Barry, promoted the idea to the press. Okay. Our next is Thomas Neal Cream. Yes, his last name is actually Cream.
Cream.
He was a doctor.
Dr. Cream.
Yes. And this kind of makes things interesting. He was a doctor that secretly specialized in abortions.
Oh.
He was born in Glasgow and educated in London and Canada. And he started to practice in Canada and later in Chicago, Illinois. In 1881, he was found guilty of fatally poisoning his mistress's husband.
Rude.
It was yeah, rude.
Rude.
Hey, Shmena. Hey, Vic. How y'all doing? It's good to see you came. But apparently he was imprisoned for that one.
They're here to learn about Dr. Cream.
Yes. Dr.
The abortion doctor.
Yes.
Who disliked this? Rude. Rude.
Rude.
Get out of here.
But he was in the Illinois State Penitentiary in Joliet, Illinois from November 1881 and was released on good behavior in July of 1891. After which he moved to London and he resumed killing as soon as he resumed killing and was arrested again. He was hanged in November 1982 at Newgate Prison, and apparently some sources would say his last words were being, quote, "I am Jack thee," and then he died.
That's convenient.
Very convenient. Police officials that attended the execution said there was didn't say anything about that. And he was still
confess to being Jack the Ripper on my deathbed, I think.
Oh yeah. And he was obviously seen as not being Jack because he was in prison during the murders.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, seems good until, you know.
What's suspected is that he
the part where he's an alibi.
Yeah, except he was suspected that he bribed officials to left prison before his official release. So people like to speculate that he paid his way out of prison and was in England at the time of the murders, which doesn't make any fucking sense.
Well, I mean it does, but you have to prove it.
Exactly.
You can't just say, "Well, he got out because he's my suspect." You have to prove it.
Well, he could have gotten out. Ugh.
Yeah. No.
And it was apparently another thing was that it was suspected he had a lookalike serve the rest of his sentence. Like, so he got out and switched it with another person.
what does
probably...
that other person get out of it? Come
I
on.
don't
They don't,
fucking
okay,
know.
that's
They're...
horseshit.
Yeah.
This whole thing is horseshit.
Yeah, and this is considered unlikely because obviously there's evidence contradicting that by Illinois authorities, newspapers at the time, Cream's solicitors, Cream's family, and Cream himself. Ha, Cream himself. Giggity! He probably used his astral projection powers to do it. Yeah, totally, Mike. And he couldn't teach anybody his ways. The next is Thomas Hayne Cutbush. These last names are really weird.
They're fantastic last names.
They're fantastic, but they're weird.
Yeah.
Cream and Cutbush. Okay.
Yeah.
You can infer what you like with those two last names. He was a medical student sent to Lambeth Infirmary in 1891 because he was suffering from delusions due to syphilis.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Syphilis was a bit of an issue.
Yeah, he Al Capone thing. He had an Al Capone pre-Al Capone.
Oh.
But he yikes indeed. He stabbed a woman in the butt and attempted to stab a second woman. And ended up getting himself pronounced insane and committed in Broadmoor Hospital in 1891, where he died in 1903. Now, the Sun newspaper was the one that really suggested he was the Ripper due to a series of articles in 1894, with no fucking evidence.
Well. Who needs evidence when you have public opinion?
Yeah, and
or really fun facts.
Yeah, and apparently the Monotone memorandum, with our three suspects that we talked about from the police,
yes,
refuted that idea. He was also suspected in another book in 1993 by A.P. Wolfe, who said that Monotone wrote his memo to protect Cutbush's uncle, who was a fellow police officer. Another person, Peter Hodges, says Cutbush was most likely candidate, doesn't say why. And David Butluck also thinks Cutbush is the Ripper in his own book. So there's 3 writers that think he's the fucking Ripper.
Well.
And it doesn't say why.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah. I don't know.
No, it doesn't sound likely to me.
No.
Our next is Frederick Bailey Deeming. He apparently murdered his wife and 4 children at Rain Hill, near St. Helens, Lancashire.
Lancashire,
yeah, in 1891. And that went undiscovered until he left to Australia with the second wife. And then he murdered her. He was arrested, sent to trial, and found guilty after investigation led to the discoveries of other bodies in England. So apparently he's been at it for a while.
Sure.
Seems. He also wrote in a book and later boasted in jail he was Jack the Ripper, but was either imprisoned or in South Africa during the murders. Police denied there was any connection, and he was eventually hanged in Melbourne. According to Robert Napper, who was a former Scotland Yard detective, the British police did not consider him a suspect because his 2 possible alibis, but Napper believed Deeming was not in jail at the time, and there's some evidence that he was back in England. So it's another similar thing where, okay, he could have got out of jail. Okay.
Again, you have to... Gonna have to prove it.
You're gonna have to prove it. You're gonna have to show me the receipts. The second to last in this category is Carl Fagenbaum. He was a German merchant seaman that was arrested in 1894 in New York City because he cut the throat of Miss Juliana Hoffman. So he got arrested for slitting a woman's throat. Apparently, after his execution, his lawyer, William Sanford Lawton, said that Feynman admitted to having hatred of women and a desire to kill and mutilate them.
Oh.
Also stated he believed that his client was Jack. And the idea didn't really get pursued, even though it was published in the press. And the accusation was later used in a book by Trevor Marriott, who's a former British murder squad detective, saying that he was that Feigenbaum was responsible for the Ripper murders, as well as other murders in the United States and Germany between 1891 and 1894. Okay. According to a dude named Wolf Vanderlinden, I love it, some of the murders listed by Marriott didn't even occur. They were just established and fictitious Ripper-like stories from the newspapers to boost sales.
Pretty funny.
The accusations by Lawton were disputed by his partner, Hugh O. Pentecost, and there's no proof that Feigenbaum was in Whitechapel at the time of the murders.
Okay.
The last person that believes this is Jack is a Scottish forensic anthropologist and criminologist, Xanthi Millett. I'm probably saying that wrong, but whatever. Investigated the case in 2011 and wrote, "There is considerable doubt that all of the Jack the Ripper murders were committed by the same person." She also says that Feigenbaum could be responsible for one, some, or perhaps all of the Whitechapel murders. Okay.
Well, that's confident.
Mm-hmm. Our final person in this category is Robert Donston Stevenson. He's a journalist and a writer that was interested in black magic and the occult. Cool. Killer. He later admitted himself at London Hospital in Whitechapel before the murder started, and left shortly after they stopped. And this is where it gets funny. He wrote an article claiming that black magic was the motive for the killings and alleged that the Ripper was a Frenchman. He was largely suspected because of his strange mannerisms and his serious interests in crimes, resulting in an amateur detective reporting him. He ended up falling under suspicion again by a newspaper editor. And in his books on the case, Melvin Harrison, who is an author and historian, said that Stevenson was a leading suspect, but the police do not appear to have treated either him or Dr. Davies as serious suspects. He's also cleared because London Hospital night shift rosters and practices indicate there was no way he could have gotten out on the night of the murders, and therefore is not Jack.
Yeah. I mean, how could he have gotten out?
I don't know. Maybe he Shawshank Redemption himself out of the fucking...
Not on the night in question.
No! I think they would have found it by then.
He's in that town. Do you remember the name of the town? I actually don't. Remember it.
I don't either. And here's probably the funniest fucking one. And this is by authors, later proposed by authors. So this is after everything went down.
This is my favorite. It is the least likely, but it is the
This is hysterical.
Also, this is the one featured in the movie From Hell, which is the Jack the Ripper movie with Johnny
Fucking course.
Depp.
But this suspect is Prince Albert Victor, Duke of Clarence and Avondale. He was first mentioned as a suspect in a Prince or a biography by Philip Julians of Clarence's father, King Edward VII, that was published in 1962. In this book, he made a passing reference to rumors that Clarence might have been responsible for the murders. There's no detail. He didn't detail the dates or sources of the rumor, so he could have gotten that indirectly from Dr. Thomas E.A. Stowell. In 1960, Stowell said that a writer, or said to another writer, Colin Wilson, who then told Nicholson, or Harold Nicholson, who's a biographer, that participated in Julian's book. And it's possible that Nicholson could have communicated that theory to Julian, and that's where he got it. It was brought to the public and got attention in 1970 when Stowell published The Criminologist, that revealed his suspicion that Clarence had committed the murders after being driven mad by syphilis.
Dun dun. It's always syphilis.
It's the second syphilis claim.
It's all syphilis.
It's all the syphilis. It's all the STDs, man. Stop having sex.
Oh.
That was obviously very much dismissed because Albert had strong alibis for the murders, and there's no likelihood, or it's very unlikely, that he even suffered from syphilis. Stowell ended up later denying that he implied Clarence was the Ripper, and any investigation into his further claims were hampered because he died of natural causes just days after the publication of his article. The same week, Stowell's son said he'd burned his father's papers, saying, quote, unquote, "I read just sufficient to make certain that there was nothing of importance." Okay.
Eh?
He's also brought up again by conspiracy theorists like Stephen Knight, who elaborated on this one. Rather than implicate him directly, it's claimed that he secretly married and had a daughter with a Catholic shop assistant. And Queen Victoria, British Prime Minister Lord Salisbury, his Freemason friends, and the Metropolitan Police conspired to murder anyone aware of Prince Albert's apparent child.
The royal conspiracy.
Tinfoil hat time.
Hell yeah.
Rocket made of Mars! Ah! That was also retracted by Joseph Gorman or Joseph Sickert later and claimed to be a hoax. It is a weird theory, Mr. Habs. It's a very weird theory. There are variations of the theory that involve William Gohl, who's a physician, the artist Walter Sickert, and a poet, James Kenneth Stephen, to greater or lesser degrees, and have been fictionalized in novels like Murder by Decree and From Hell, which you mentioned.
From Hell is fantastic.
I'll bet it is. I haven't seen it.
It is. It's actually a really good movie.
I'll have to go watch it.
I would highly recommend it to anyone who's interested. I mean, and it's absolutely totally out there, but you know what? It's got hold on, Johnny Depp, and I forget his name, but you'll know who I'm talking about when I actually Ian Holm,
Does not
Bilbo
ring a
Baggins.
bell.
Who's Bilbo Baggins in Lord of the Rings?
Ah!
Ian Holm.
That may...
Old
Yeah.
old Bilbo. Old Bilbo. He's been in a ton of stuff, but that's the one that immediately comes to mind. And then Heather Graham's in it. So it's just a weird. I mean, it's a weird fucking movie. It's good though. It's definitely out there, and the whole thing's crazy, but it's super fun. And Johnny Depp is, as always, amazing.
Sounds like fun.
Mm-hmm.
Our next one is a dude named Joseph Barnett, who was a former fish porter. And apparently was victim Mary Kelly's lover from April 8th, 1887 to October 30th of 1888, when they had a fight and separated after he lost his job and she went back to Horn for a living.
She sure did.
Yeah, that turned out really well, didn't it?
Did not.
Nope.
Not even kind of.
Nope. Inspector Abeline also questioned him after Kelly's murder, and his clothes were examined for bloodstains, but he was released without any charges. A century after that, or after the murders, an author, Bruce Paley, proposed him as a suspect because he was a scorned lover and committed other murders to scare Kelly off the streets and out of prostitution. You can't see my head tilt, but, like, I tilted my head all the way to the side, like, what? What?
What's going on here?
The fuck? Others suggested he's the only killed Kelly, and he mutilated the body to make look like a Ripper murder. But he was exonerated, and other acquaintances that put forth that he might be the murderer is her landlord John McCarthy and her former boyfriend Joseph Fleming.
Right.
What?
That's crazy.
Yeah, clearly. The third on this list, this is the longest part of the list, is Lewis Carroll, who's the author of Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. He's suspected because there's anagrams which author Richard Wallace devised for his book Jack the Ripper, Light-Hearted Friend, and argues that Carroll had a psychotic break after being assaulted by a man when he was 12 and became an angry man. Apparently, Wallace also says that Carroll wrote a diary every day in purple ink, but on the days of the Whitechapel killings, he switched to black. And that, obviously, that makes so fucking sense. That's just that's tinfoil hat shit right there.
Oh, yeah.
Absolute tinfoil hat shit. Some of these are just weird.
I know, they are. It's so much fun, though. Like, I love the weird ones.
The weird ones are just like, huh? What?
They are fantastic.
It's just dumb.
Absolutely fantastic.
Our next suspect is David Cohen, who is also a Polish Jew.
These poor Polish Jews are just getting shit on all
everywhere.
Over the place here.
Yeah. He was apparently incarcerated at Colney Hatch Lunatic Asylum in December 1888, which coincided with the end of the murders. He's an unmarried tailor and was described as being violently antisocial and a poor East End local. He's suggested as a suspect by author and ripperologist, hate that shit, Martin Fido, in one of his books, where Fido claimed the name David Cohen was used at the time to refer to a Jewish immigrant who either could not be positively identified or whose name was too difficult for the police to spell, in the same fashion as John Doe in the US. Fido also said that Cohen was Leather Apron and said his true identity was Nathan Kaminsky, a bootmaker living in Whitechapel who had been treated at one time for syphilis. Why the fuck is it all this syphilis shit?
There's all kinds of syphilis all over that made people crazy.
So there's two things that we keep seeing that's recurring. Polish Jews, or Jews in general, and syphilis.
And the gays.
And the gays. There's three. Never mind, that's three. You're right. But apparently this wasn't traced after mid-1888 or whatever. Fido believed that officials confused the name Kaminsky with Kosminski.
Possible.
It is possible.
They're close.
Which
it wasn't like records were
very good at that point.
Well kept.
Yeah. It said that Cohen exhibited violent, destructive tendencies while in the asylum, and it had to be restrained. Ooh. But he died in the asylum in October 1889.
Yikes.
John Douglas, an FBI criminal profile, said in his book that behavioral clues gathered from the murders all point to a person known to the police as David Cohen or someone very much like him. That sounds possible.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds very possible.
Does.
In comparison to the ones prior to this. Our next is William Whitty Gull, who was a physician and ordinary to Queen Victoria.
Ordinary.
He was named as the Ripper as part of an evolution of the widely discredited Masonic royal conspiracy theory outlined in books like... should I even read this name of the book?
Yes.
The book is called Jack the Ripper, The Final Solution. I hate it.
I hate it too.
And apparently Coachman John Netley was named as his accomplice.
Final solution, guys.
The final solution. He's also seen in a number of books and films, including the TV film Jack the Ripper, Alan Moore and Eddie Campbell's graphic novel From Hell, and the 2001 film adaptation, in which Ian Holm plays Gull. Yeah, and most people who are, conventional historians are like, yeah, no, that's fucking stupid. But that's hysterical. There you go. There's two offshoots of royalty. Cacklemau.
It's so good.
It is so good. The things that people come up with.
Mm-hmm.
Our next is George Hutchinson, an unemployed laborer.
I'm going to give the people what they want. Sensation, horror, shock. Send them out in the streets to tell their friends how wonderful it is to be scared to death.
Thank you for the subs, Maria Connor Gaunt. Appreciate it. Welcome to the family. Back to what I was saying. In November 1888, he made a formal statement to the London police in the early hours of 9 November 1888. Mary Jane Kelly approached him on the street and asked him for money. He said he'd followed her and another man of conspicuous appearance to her room and had watched the room for about 3/4 of an hour without seeing either leave. And he gave a very detailed description of the man, claiming he was, quote, of Jewish appearance, end quote, despite darkness of that night.
Alone.
God
I've been through enough.
God damn it.
They've been through enough.
And after interviewing Hutchinson, it was at first believed that the accuracy was wrong, and then after another investigation by Aberline, apparently he believed that account was truthful. It was later claimed by head of CID, Robert Anderson, that the only witness who got a good look at the killer was Jewish, and Hutchinson was not Jewish, and thus not a witness.
But did he look Jewish? That's apparently
Jesus
they
Christ.
can tell. They can tell. They're describing them as looking Jewish. Like, how do you know? I guess maybe it was different at some point, but like I wouldn't be able to like pick someone off the street and be like, "That's a Jew." Like, that's just
yeah.
what the hell?
It's so dumb. Some modern scholars say that Hutchinson was the Ripper himself and tried to confuse the police with a false description. Others have said he'd just been an attention seeker and made up a story hoping he could sell it to the press. Is there any problem that the Jews haven't been blamed for? Not that I know of.
No. Get all
Not
kinds
that
of
I
shit
know
on.
of. Yeah, shocker. The next is James Kelly, who was identified as a suspect in Terrence Sharkey's Jack the Ripper 100 Years of Investigation, and also documented in Prisoner 1167, The Madman Who Was Jack the Ripper by Jim Tully. Kelly murdered his wife in 1883 by stabbing her in the neck,
Rude.
but he was deemed insane and committed to Broadmoor Asylum, where he later escaped in early 1888 using a key he fashioned himself. Apparently he was searched for after the 5 canonical murders were committed in November 1888. And weren't able to locate him. He ended up turning himself in to officials at Broadmoor Asylum 40 years later in 1927 and died there of natural causes. This initially came up as a suspect by retired New York Police Department cold case detective Ed Norris, who examined the case for the Discovery Channel program called Jack the Ripper in America. I've seen that one. He claims that Kelly was Jack the Ripper and also responsible for multiple murders in the cities in the United States. He highlights a few features of Kelly's story that support that, like Kelly's Broadmoor Insane Asylum file before he escaped. It was never opened until Norris gave him permission to access to it. And apparently that file is a perfect profile match to Jack the Ripper. Why?
I don't know.
It doesn't tell me
I don't
why.
know.
Okay, whatever. Our next is Charles Allen Lechmere, also known as Charles Cross.
I actually like this one too.
Yeah. Who is a meat cart driver for the Pickford's Company and regarded as an innocent witness who discovered the body of the first canonical victim, Maria Nichols. In another documentary, Swedish journalist Christer Holmgren and criminologist Garrett Norris of Aberystwyth University, with the assistance of Detective Andy Griffiths, said that Lechmere was the Ripper because Lechmere lied to police and had been with Nichols' body for only a few minutes, whereas research on his route to work demonstrated that he must have been with her for about 9 minutes. I don't know why that matters, but okay.
Well, like, I guess the way it worked was like that he was the way that she was found in like the time frame between when she was purportedly found and when she when she was killed, I guess, was pretty close in time, and I think that the only reason that that cross or Lechmere, whatever the hell his name was near her was something like she, like somebody else was there and kind of made him engage. Now, I don't recall the specifics of this one, but I'm pretty sure that that's what happened. I'm trying to remember now. Huh. I don't know. Whatever. Whatever. I can't remember off the top of my head. So, hello?
Sorry, I was crunching on something.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine.
Apparently, when Lechmere called over Robert Paul to look at her, no blood was visible, but by the time the constable showed up afterward, there was a pool formed around her neck, suggesting the cut on her throat was extremely fresh when Lechmere and Paul were present.
Yes.
Also refused Paul's suggestion to prop her up, which would have instantly made it clear that her throat had been cut. Neither man reported seeing or hearing anyone else in Buck's Row, which had no side exits. Her injuries were also hidden under her clothing, where most of the typical Ripper wounds were out on full-blown display. And it's theorized that Lechmere had killed Nichols and had begun the process of mutilating her body when he heard Paul's footsteps, and then rushed to portray himself as the discoverer of the body. Lechmere didn't come forward until he was mentioned to the press, and gave evidence under the Cross name. All of his information, home address, visits to family, route to work, link him to times and places of the murderers. He passed 3 streets where Martha Tambram, Polly Nichols, and Annie Chapman were murdered roughly at the same time the murders are estimated to have occurred. The double event of Stride and Eddowes occurred on a Sunday, and he was which was his only night off from work. Stride was killed near Lechmere's mother's house, where he grew up in, and the direct route from Stride's murder location and Eddowes' murder followed a path to Lechmere's route to work that he'd used for 20 years. Mary Kelly was also murdered on this route to work, and the time frame in which she's estimated to have been killed matches the route. His family background is very similar to other serial killers. Grew up in a broken home, didn't know his biological father, had 2 stepfathers. Grew up in a bunch of different homes with an instability of residence, and apparently his occupation is a meat cart driver, but allow his blood-spattered appearance to escape suspicion. That sounds probable.
Yeah.
And he's also thought to have been involved in murders other than the canonical victims and Martha Tambram.
Well,
Ooh.
I don't know, guys.
That seems interesting. That seems pretty. I can see it. That sounds convincing to me. The next is a short one, which probably is because there's really nothing attached to it. Jacob Levy. He was a butcher and was living by Middlesex Street in 1888, which was in the heart of Ripper territory. He apparently contracted syphilis from a prostitute, which made revenge a motive. And he was he was a butcher.
There's so much syphilis.
Yep. Syphilis. There's so much,
God,
and because of the
they
skills
needed
they...
antibiotics.
Penicillin!
Seriously, all of the penicillin was needed.
All the penicillin.
All of it.
And obviously the whole syphilis revenge motive and his skills as a butcher would give him the ability to remove certain organs from victims. And what really put him in the light of day is the video game Sherlock Holmes versus Jack the Ripper that proposed his candidacy.
What?
Yeah.
I love it. Video games are real life, everyone.
It used a combination of historically attested and embellished evidence.
Yeah.
So, a video game put this dude on the map. Okay.
Hell yeah.
Then we have James Maybrick, who's a cotton merchant in Liverpool.
Maybrick's fun.
His wife was convicted of poisoning with arsenic. And he was the father of another modern suspect, James Kenneth Stephen. An author named Sherry Harrison attested that Maybrick was both Jack the Ripper and the Servant Girl Annihilator in Austin, Texas, in her book.
Servant Girl Annihilator?
I'm gonna need to look into that.
Holy shit, that's a hell of a name.
That's oof, that's heavy. Hold on, I'm gonna look into that real quick.
The
Hold on.
Annihilator. It sounds like a fucking supervillain.
Yeah. There's not a lot to it, but I'm definitely gonna look at that shit. That's fucking awesome.
Absolutely.
YouTube references. Some of these people come up with the coolest names.
Yeah.
Apparently there was a diary published in 1990s by Michael Barrett and contains a confession to the Ripper's murders.
Why Maybrick is even a suspect.
And that was, and it ended up being a admitted hoax.
Yeah.
When Barrett confessed to writing the diary himself in 1995, and talked about how he counterfeited the diary in detail. He swore under oath that he and his wife, Anne, forged it. Which she denied the forgery after they divorced. And the story has changed multiple times.
Sure.
Diary, regardless, is discredited. Yeah. Dumb.
Yeah.
Dum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The diary's always been an interesting one.
I'll bet.
Nobody's ever really done much.
Apparently we have another Maybrick in Michael Maybrick, an English composer and singer known for the pseudonym Stephen Adams, who composed The Holy City. Bruce Robinson documents in his 2015 book that Maybrick frequented Whitechapel area where the murders took place. And there was a description of a man seen by Matthew Parker on the night of Stride's murder that resembled Michael Maybrick. His profession meant he frequently traveled around the UK, and the dates and locations of his performances coincide with when and where the letters to the police were sent from. We'll get to those later. He had a presence in Bradford around Christmas of 1888, which also coincides with the murder of the 7-year-old boy, the anomaly, Johnny Gill. Oh, what do we got here? Oh, jeez. Jessica for 15. Drink. Also, it's 12:22, and I just woke up. Party! Okay.
Oh, yeah.
One big drink.
Get some. Oh.
2 big
Take
drinks.
2. Take 2.
3.
2 big drinks.
All right, 3. There you go.
3's good.
Big old gulps.
Says that's exactly how I said it.
Yep. Get my big gold cup.
There you go.
There
Very
you
fun.
go.
I like
Love you, honey. You're gonna fuck me up. It's gonna be great. That is exactly how I said it. I know that's how you said it. That's how you typed it. You typed party in fucking caps. Excuse me. Oof. The next is Alexander Petachenko. And was apparently named in the 1923 memoirs of William Le Queux, who claimed
William
he'd seen... it's spelled Q-U-E-U-X, so Q-X? Queux? I don't fucking know. That's
like
weird.
anyone does.
But this dude claimed to have seen a manuscript in French written by Rasputin stating Jack the Ripper was an insane Russian doctor named Alexander Petachenko, an agent of the Okhrana.
Anastasia, like the fucking Tsar and Anastasia and the bad guy, basically.
Yeah,
okay.
That's
right.
making me laugh. But apparently he thinks that this Petachenko guy was an agent of the Okhrana, a secret police of Imperial Russia, whose aim in committing the murders was to discredit Scotland Yard.
That's funny.
Apparently he had 2 assistants named Levitsky and a tailoress called Wittenberg. Obviously there's no hard evidence that this dude ever existed. And a lot of the story that was recounted just falls apart when you look at it closer. Yeah, he was also promoted as a suspect by Donald McCormick, who had developed the story by adding... We're getting into the weird. We're getting into the weird.
These are all a big reach.
The reach. The reach. The Olympics of reach.
Yeah.
Reach Olympics.
Pretty much.
The next suspect, is Walter Sickert, who's a German-born artist of British and Danish ancestry, mentioned in the as a possible whispered suspect in Donald McCormick's book, who also brought up this Petachenko dude as a suspect and added his own shit into the story. Okay. He ended up... He was extremely, this guy seems like he's obsessed with the Ripper. Because apparently he went as far as to stay in a room that was rumored to have once had Jack the Ripper himself as a lodger. And depicted similar scenes in many paintings.
All right.
This guy apparently... Sickert also showed up as a character in the, Royal Masonic conspiracy theory, concocted by Joseph Gorman, that said Sickert's, who said he was Sickert's illegitimate son. Okay. The theory was developed even more by author John Overton Fuller, novelist Patricia Conwell, and Patricia Conwell in their books. But he's not considered a suspect by anybody who studies the case, because there's no strong evidence, and it shows that he's in France by the time the murders were going down.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole Sickert was the Ripper based on DNA analysis of the letters. Experts believe those letters are fake. And another genetic analysis of the letters claimed the murderer could have been a woman.
Oh.
Huh? Okay. After that...
All right, then.
After that, we have... Joseph Silver, who is a African historian.
Right back.
Huh?
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Talking about him.
I
Slight
will.
dog issue.
I will. Who was apparently brought up by South African historian Charles van Onselen, who said that Silver, here we are, also known as Joseph Lees, a Polish Jew, was Jack the Ripper. Here we go again. That's like the 5th time that's come up. Holy shit. There's no evidence provided for Silver ever being in London by the time of the murders, and it's all apparently speculation. But this guy says that there's many circumstances that involved that should constitute him as being a suspect, but doesn't really go into them. So that doesn't matter. Oh my gosh, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 more in this category before we get into the weird theories. Or the further theories. Holy shit, it's already an hour and 34 minutes. Okay. Oh, we had another Polish Jew.
There's so many.
Yep.
I'm saying,
leave the Jews alone. Leave Brittany alone.
Oh my god, I miss him. Leave Brittany alone. He was so fun.
Yeah.
Oh.
Our 4th to last is James Kenneth Stephen. And he's supposedly brought up first in the biography of Prince Albert. And this particular person, Michael Harrison, who published this book, the biography, dismissed Prince Albert being the Ripper, but instead suggested that Stephen who was a poet and one of Albert's tutors in Trinity College, Cambridge, was a suspect.
Ruh-roh.
This is based on his misogynist writings and on similarities between the handwriting and that of From Hell letter, which is written by the Ripper, supposedly.
Ripper letters.
It's here we go again. It's believed that Stephen may have had sexual feelings for Albert Victor.
I'm telling you.
And his hatred of women arose from jealousy because Albert preferred female company and did not reciprocate Stephen's feelings.
Crazy. It's they either blame the gays, people with syphilis, or Jews. Every single one of these people, for the most part, not all.
There's no proof that that Stephen was ever in love with Victor, but he did starve himself to death shortly after hearing about Albert's death.
Oh.
Fun.
No.
This was further developed by Frank Spiring, where it depicted Albert Victor as the murderer and Stephen as his lover. Cool. This guy claimed that he discovered a copy of some notes written by another suspect, Gull, in the library of the New York Academy of Medicine that includes a confession by Albert under a state of hypnosis. He confessed under a state of hypnosis. It was also suggested that Albert died due to an overdose of morphine, who was administered to him by the order of the Prime Minister of Lord Salisbury and possibly his own father.
Right.
This was funny. This guy is funny. It says the New York Academy denied possessing any records of that, and when he was offered access to the Royal Archives, he said, quote, "I don't need to see any files." Safe to say Jack was a gay Polish Jew that had syphilis. Yep, we're gonna go with that.
Exactly.
We're gonna go with that.
Exactly. That's so right. That's exactly what the what these suspects are telling us.
Yeah.
The commonalities.
This one's really, really quick. Francis Thompson's the next one. He was an ascetic poet and opium addict with some medical training that was homeless in the docks of Whitechapel around the times of the murders. He was proposed as a suspect in a book by Australian teacher Richard Patterson, and that's all we really know.
Okay.
Last two. Second to last is Willie Clarkson, who was a royal wig maker and costume maker for Queen Victoria. They lived 2 miles away from each of the canonical five.
Maker.
Here we go, royalty. So he's a gay Polish Jewish syphilis associated with the crown. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
But he apparently lived 2 miles from each of the crime scenes for the canonical five.
Well, that's at least like
Something.
somewhat. Yeah.
He was named as a suspect in 2019 based on Clarkson's 1937 biography written by Harry J. Greenwell. He was known to have stalked his ex-fiancée and reputedly a blackmailer and arsonist. He's suspected of committing murders to cover up blackmail schemes. And there's evidence to support the theory that Clarkson, as a suspect, included the revelation that he admitted one of his custom-made wigs was found near the scene of one of the Ripper killings.
Okay.
Which was not widely known.
Well.
The biography also quotes him as stating that the police obtained disguises from him for their search for the Ripper, and because of that, he would be aware of the trails they followed. So it would allow him to elude capture. Another thing that kind of ties him in here is that haircutting shears and barber surgeon tools of the kind used by a wig maker at the time closely matched the shape and style of the weapons suspected to have been used in the murders. Okay, cool. Yeah. Here's another royal associate that's in the last one is a royal associate with Sir John Williams, who was the obstetrician to Princess Beatrice, who was brought up as an accused Ripper suspect by one of the surgeon's descendants. The author claims the victims knew the doctor personally and were killed and mutilated in an attempt to research the causes of infertility. And a badly blunted surgical knife that belonged to Williams was the weapon. This was, however...
I don't know how much anyone was going to learn from...
Yeah. Apparently his wife Lizzie was also named as a possible suspect.
Oh, man.
Okay.
A whole family.
Yeah.
They have any kids?
Not that I'm seeing, but that's the last one that we really give a shit about.
Yeah.
So why don't we go into the letters, since we've done that, and then we'll close out with how this is like the legacy and stuff, because we're almost at 2 hours now.
Yeah, and we'll do our poll, and then we'll be good.
Yeah. So there are hundreds of letters apparently that are sent to the police, a lot of which are considered hoaxes, but there are a few that are generally considered actual Ripper letters. The first of which being the Dear Boss letter, that was sent on the 27th of September 1888 to Central News Agency.
I think might be one that I agree with. I can't remember now. Being real, that is. I don't agree with the subject of
this one
of the letter.
This is originally believed to be a hoax, but the double murder of Stride and Eddowes happened 3 days later, and a portion of the latter's earlobe was found cut from the body, and was reminiscent of the promise made in the letter. This is what it read. Dear Boss, I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet. I've laughed when they look so clever and talk about being on the right track. The joke about Leather Apron gave me real fits. I am down on whores, and I shan't quit ripping them till I do get buckled. Grand
I'm
work.
down on whores.
Yeah. Grand
I'm
work.
down on whores.
Yeah, right. I don't know. That could mean many things. Grand work. The last job was. I gave the lady no time to squeal. How can they catch me now? I love my work and want to start again. You will soon hear of me with my funny little games. I saved some of the proper red stuff in a ginger beer bottle over the last job to write with, but it went thick like glue and I can't use it. Red ink is fit enough, I hope. Ha ha. The next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ears off and send to the police officers just for jolly, wouldn't you?
Never mind. This isn't the one I'm thinking of that I believe.
Keep this letter back till I do a bit more work, then give it out straight. My knife's so nice and sharp. I want to get to work right away if I get a chance. Good luck. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper. Don't mind me giving the trade name. P.S. Wasn't good enough to post this before I got all the red ink off my hands. Curse it. No luck yet. They say I'm a doctor now. Ha ha.
What a what a fucking troll. This is
It's
like
like
a
a troll.
Seriously.
The next one we got is the Saucy Jack postcard, which was received by the Central News Agency on October 1st, 1888. And it directly references the Dear Boss letter, which says, I was not codding dear old boss when I gave you the tip. You'll hear about Saucy Jack's work tomorrow, double event. This time, number one squealed a bit, couldn't finish straight off. Ha, not the time to get ears for the police. Thanks for keeping last letter back till I got to work again. Jack the Ripper. Then we have the From Hell letter.
This is the one, I think.
Which went to George Lux, the president of the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee, on October 16th, which had the human kidney preserved in wine in it.
Yeah. this is why I think this one might be.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if any of the letters are genuine, but I think
I at least think these first three are probably genuine.
Yeah, they're good. They're a
yeah.
good bet.
Yeah.
I don't know, though. The writing in From Hell doesn't look like Dear Boss. Do we have the same... Yeah, I think...
And it looks like it was made a little bit quicker. And the
maybe.
Writing is a little bit bigger, but it's still all in the same kind of cursive, but I'm not an expert, so don't quote me. This one says, From Hell, Mr. Lux, sore. I mean, it probably means sir. I send you half the kidney I took from one woman and preserved, spelt preserved it for you.
A lot of the spelling is a little wonky.
Piece, I think it says, you, the other piece, I fried and ate it. Well, it was very nice. I may send you the bloody knife that took it out if you only wait a while longer. Signed, Catch Me When You Can, Mr. Lux. Or Mr. Lux. There's a lot of spelling errors in that. That makes me wonder.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Another letter was received by a local newspaper, which was intended for Israel Schwartz and Joseph Londy, that read the following. You, though yourself, very clever, I reckon, when you informed the police. But you made a mistake if you thought I didn't see you. Now I know you know me, and I see your little game, and I mean to finish you and send your ears to your wife if you show this to the police, or help them. If you do, I will finish you. It no use you're trying to get out of my way. Because I have you when you don't expect it, and I keep my word, as you soon see and rip you up. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper. P.S. You see I know your address.
Bum, bum.
There's another one, but there's no date really attached to it. But researchers give a little bit of credence or credibility, and it states, "Beware, I shall be at work on the 1st and 2nd inst. and the minorities at 12 midnight, and I give the authorities a good chance, but there is never a policeman near when I am at work. Yours, Jack the Ripper. And apparently this was talking about Edo's.
Okay.
Next one is another one that we don't know what date it was made, but it was another one that's been given clearance. What fools the police are. I even gave them the name of the street where I'm living. Prince William Street. Apparently this is yards away from where from Egbert and the Office of Cotton Exchange, so apparently that's credible. Another one we got is from October 29th, 1888, and was sent to Dr. Openshaw, which states, "Old boss, you was right. It was the left kidney I was going to operate again. So again, close to you, hospital just as I was going to door my knife along of her bloomin' throat. Them cusses of coppers spoilt the game, but I guess I will not. I will be the John soon, and will send you another bit of innards. Jack the Ripper. Oh, have you seen the devil with his microscope and scalpel looking at the kidney with a slide cocked up? What the fuck does that mean?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I could barely read that.
Some weird ass Victorian shit.
Next one is dated the 7th of September 1888 and was apparently recently discovered by Peter McLeland in a sealed report envelope in the British Public Record Office in 1988. This one's debated. Could be a hoax. And first showed up in Paul Freeman's Jack the Ripper, the final chapter. It reads as follows. Dear boss, so now they say I am a Yid. I'm assuming that means a Jew. When will they learn dear old boss? You and me know the truth, don't we? Lust can look forever, hell never find me, and I'm right under the nose of all the time. I watch them looking for me, and it gives me fits, ha. I love my work, and I shan't stop until I get buckled. And even then, watch out for your old pal Jackie. Catch me if you can, Jack the Ripper. Sorry about the blood, still messy from last time. What a pretty necklace I gave her.
What a fucking troll.
The absolute troll. It's always the fucking Polish. No, it's always the Polish Jews, Space Medic.
Polish Jews with syphilis.
No. It's Polish Jews that are homosexual, have syphilis, and are associated with the royal crown.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. There's quite a list.
Mm-hmm.
Try to keep up. Medic.
There are two more. Second to last is the Golston Street Graffito, which is apparently, I think, the graffiti with the bloodstained apron.
We
talked about.
We did actually, yeah, we mentioned that one.
Yeah, it's the one that says the Jews are the blame for everything, but they never get caught for it. Okay.
At least that's how we're interpreting it.
And here's the hoax letter from Donald McCormick. There's no date to it, and this is only one of the verses. 8 little whores with no hope of heaven. Gladstone may save one. Then there'll be 7. 7 little whores begin for a shilling. 1 stays in Heneage Court. Then there's a killing. 6 little whores glad to be alive. 1 settles up to Jack. Then there are 5. 4 and whore rhyme aright. So do thee and me. I'll set the town alight. Ere there are 2 little whores shivering with fright. Seek a cozy doorway in the middle of the night. Jack's knife flashes. Then there's but one. And that last one, the ripest for Jack's idea of fun. The ripest for Jack's idea of fun. That's definitely...
He's a poet!
That's definitely hoax material.
That's the media.
Yeah.
That's the media planting.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, that's a definite hoaxy.
I agree.
Okay, so that's basically everything we went over.
So who is it?
We don't know.
Who do you think it is?
If I was to pick one, let me go back to the.
It's so hard, right?
Yeah, let me go back to the list. But there's one of them from that was brought up that I really thought. I think Lechmere sounded really, really promising.
Yeah, Lechmere sounds good. I don't know. I think Kosminski.
That's another one that could be.
Yeah, it's so hard though. Who knows?
I don't know,
Nobody.
but Lechmere
Nobody.
is
We'll
the one that's
never
most
know.
likely. That's the one that seems most likely to me because of a lot of the stuff that's been said about his past and stuff that was going on. That makes a lot more sense to me than any of the other ones.
Pretty hotly debated though.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think the ones that make me laugh the most was the Lewis Carroll one and the Petachenko,
Yeah.
the Russian doctor who was an agent of that Rasputin talked about. That was part of the Okhrana. Oh god.
I like that one.
Yeah, a lot of people
Perhaps
say
this-
he had to be a butcher or a cutter, a butcher or a doctor. The way he cut people, yeah, and
Theory.
Lechmere was a meat cart driver. And
So if he were covered in blood, it wouldn't be abnormal.
exactly. That's the one that really, really makes sense to me.
All right.
I mean, Kosminski can okay, but there's some other stuff that just doesn't add up to me. With
Yeah.
the Lechmere, a lot of that stuff that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, everything is on his way to everything that he went to. The same routes he used for 20 years. He's a meat cart driver.
Yeah.
And he's in that area during the time of those murders. Every single one of them. Which, yeah. Makes a lot of sense to me.
We have no, and this is a problem with a lot of them, we have no direct tie to him and the other victim. The only one that he encountered, right, was it was Chapman, right? And that was the one where he found her.
No, Nichols. He was the one that was
sorry.
found with Nichols. However, he can be put in the area during the time of the murder of Martha Tabram, Nichols, and Chapman.
Okay.
So,
Well,
he also could be put in the same. He literally could be put in the area of the Canonical Five. Is what we were being told. Because he had the day off, the night off, apparently, on the double murder of Stride and Eddowes. And he knew the area where Stride was killed because it was around his mother's house, where he grew up. And Stride's murder scene was located on a path that Lechmere's used to go to work for 20 years. Kelly was also murdered on the route to work. Around the same time frame when she was estimated to be killed. Matches the route. So, there's a lot of stuff that kind of coincides.
yeah.
That one I think is the most possible, in my opinion. But
I don't disagree. I don't think he's a bad bet. I don't think we'll ever know.
We'll never. Oh no, the world may never know.
We'll never know. Terrible.
It's just like we'll never know how many licks it takes to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop. But
True. We won't. It's really really messed up.
But this has left a legacy. This is probably one of the most well-known murder cases or serial killer cases, on top of all the books and shit that's come out about it. Books, games, movies, television shows. There's even
There's all kinds of
apparently
stuff.
Japanese erotic horror about the Ripper.
I'm sorry, a what?
Japanese erotic horror.
Erotic
Yeah.
horror. What?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Excuse me?
Wait a second. That's not a real thing.
It is. I'll tell you
Oh
what it
my
is right now.
God.
There's an erotic movie called Assault Jack the Ripper. Synopsis is a young
What?
couple engaged in a rampage of murder, rape, and mayhem in order to stimulate their sexual appetites. I could send you the link to this.
No.
It's
I
real.
don't want it.
It's
I
legit.
don't want it. I believe you. I believe you.
I wouldn't be like,
Oh my
what?
God. No.
Oh. Apparently, it was the second of 3 quote-unquote violent pink films by Yasuhiro Hasabe, and became between the first movie's name is just rape with exclamation point, and the last one is rape exclamation point the 13th hour. What?
Rape explanation. What?
Yes, I'm not kidding. And these are all
God.
released in 1976.
Oh, that's awful.
It is awful.
Oh.
Apparently, the Ripper one got the best critical reception, and they said it was an allegory on the state of Japanese cinema, and the guy that filmed it, he said, quote, "It wasn't my intention. I don't like to play those games within cinema. If such thing exists in the movie, it was a conspiracy between producer Ito and scripter Katsura."
Shit. That is weird.
Yeah. I'm fucking curious now.
I'm not. No.
I'm curious.
Absolutely. No. I want nothing to do with that. It's so weird.
Wait. Wait.
What?
Hold on. Actress Tamaki Katsura had long hair before taking her role for this film. Hasabe told her that he wished for the character to sport an afro perm. Realizing this would limit her career choices at the time, Katsura nevertheless agreed to change the hairstyle for the film. Usually playing secondary characters, it was Katsura's first starring role for her performance in the film. She was nominated as Best Actress at the Mainstream Japan Academy Prize. What?
Oh.
What? Yeah, Mr. Hobbs. They have used panty vending machines. Yes, they're fucking weird. But before we go into just keep going on a tangent with the weird, that's everything we have. Obviously we've done 3+ hours of content on this. If you haven't seen the first stream, go take a look at that. It's awesome. Gotta thank Lolly for coming on and bringing this one up, because this was a hell of a lot of fun.
It was fun. I'm glad we did it.
Absolutely.
Super
So,
fun.
if you want to say goodbye to everybody, go ahead and do that now.
Goodbye, chat. Thanks for joining us. It was a lot of fun.
Alright, guys. Thanks for coming by and listening to our guffawing over weird shit with Jack the Ripper. Have a wonderful evening and sweet nightmares.